Good morning. Mighty Kids can make your way to Mighty Kids with your mighty leaders. So glad you're here today. This will be a little bit of a different message. Today is Vision Sunday. And so over the last numerous weeks, we have been at a board level as well as we had a congregational meeting. We have been plotting a plan for our building to help us to make room in all different areas of our church, our lives and ministry. One thing I want you to remember is this, next slide is this. We are not making room for buildings, we are making room for people. Sometimes when we talk in these abstract things like make room or we're going to do this or do this, or, we added more parking somewhere over here, I think. We added more parking. We can disconnect people from that. But there's people in those cars, people who don't know Jesus, people who have had difficult weeks or days. We are making room. We're not making room for buildings, we are making room for people. The idea behind all of this that we've dreamt about, that we've talked about, is reaching one more person. Numerous weeks ago, we wrote on these ping pong balls someone that we know that doesn't know Jesus, that we want to see come to faith this year. In Isaiah 43:19 says, "See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" What I'm going to present to you today, I need you to know that this plan is supported 100% by the pastors, the staff, the pastors' council. The voting membership has met. They have voted on this plan. 40 out of 41 members voted yes. There was one spoiled ballot. I'm assuming someone just wasn't sure yet. So we had an extremely high support of this, and we're really excited about it. Our mission for Grace Church exists to continue to be making more disciples for Jesus. We take this directly from Matthew 29:19. I think, and I would hope, and I would want us to understand that this idea is not just that we would make converts, that we would make disciples. And it would be continually happening. Our vision, we want to be a church where anyone feels welcome, everyone grows deeper, and together we go farther. This is something that we really believe in. We really believe that we are called to be a church for everyone. Those of you who have been around Grace Church a long time, you'll know what I'm going to say right now, but many of you, maybe you don't know this. Grace Church existed long before it existed in this building. It existed actually under another name. Église de Plein Évangile, and that was located in St. Charles. Now I know I'm probably not pointing towards St. Charles right now. St. Charles. St. Charles. Thank you. Those of you who live in St. Charles, you're like, you are terrible. Okay, let's start over. Existed in St. Charles. And God did incredible things in St. Charles. I still hear the stories where people would stand in the parking lot and expand the parking week after week as strings of cars came in, where they started with 30 or 40 people and grew, and God saved and God did miracles. And then through a series of events, they moved from St. Charles to the tavern on Main Street here in Bucktush. The main street is just a lot now. It burnt down years later right beside the creamery. And then Youthquake grew and it expanded and the mission of God went forward. And then we moved here out of nothing short of a miracle of God. And here we are. The reason I tell you this story is it's really important to remember God has been doing what God does long before today. Long before me. There's many of you, you were here in St. Charles. You went to the tavern, and now you are here. This is not, God is doing something new as in something different. But God has been doing this for a long time. And I think it's important that we remember. We need to be people who celebrate His faithfulness. We need to celebrate God's faithfulness. These are just a few pictures on a screen, but there's pictures of Mighty Kids, which is growing, Youthquake, which is growing. There's baptisms, there's prayer, there's all of these things because God has been faithful to His church. How many know that it's an absolute miracle that Grace Church exists here today? A miracle of God. So you ask the question, and I ask the question, why do we need to make room? Why? Because we need to continually follow the Great Commission. To go into all the world, to make disciples, to continually be making more disciples. Our current seating in this room is 306 people. Those of you who are on the wings looking into the ears of the people in the middle, you'll know that the seating is not ideal. 80% capacity of 306 is 245 people. We, on most Sundays, are approaching or past capacity. People don't like to sit jammed up against each other. So this is one of the reasons why we need to make room. We need to make room for Mighty Kids and for Youthquake. Mighty Kids their areas need major upgrades. We need to move from this capacity of seating to 350 as quickly as we can, and it's impossible to do in this space as it exists. You won't be able to see this too well, but in 2024, that large orange line at the top is the 200 mark. We had 0 services in 2024 over 200 people. In 2025, we had 13 services. Now, this number is out of date, but this is for 6 months of 2026. The number is actually 24 or 25. But the reason I didn't update it, because it's easier to say every single Sunday is over that number. This is not a number, this is people. Youthquake and Mighty Kids. Youthquake and Mighty Kids some changes need to be made. We're not making room for buildings, we're making room for people. Both of these ministries are thriving. Both of these ministries are vital. And if parents don't feel like their kids are safe and cared for, their parents won't bring their children here. So this is what we're trying to address. I want you to keep in mind this phrase, that we're trying to reach just one more. It's not 1,000 people we're trying to reach. We're trying to reach one more. And then one more. And then one more. I hope that we would keep in our mind that one person could be your child or your nephew or your mom or your dad or your friend or your neighbor. One more child, one more teenager, one more marriage, one more person that is far from God. One more adult, one more family. The desire for the board, the staff, the team, the desire is not that we have a church of 500 people. The desire is to reach people for Jesus. That has always been the call. Way back to St. Charles to today. Here's our current reality. Youthquake is actually spread all over the building. I met with Youthquake Thursday night. They changed plans in the middle of summer, and there was 51 students here. The reason I met with them is I simply wanted the change will affect them quite a bit, and I wanted them to hear it from me. But Youthquake is spread all over the building. On a Thursday night, they use the youth lounge, the cafe, the gym. They use this space. Our sanctuary is running out of room, and Mighty Kids space is limited. We have some children's space upstairs, but Mighty Kids has one room, and that room is at capacity. So it leaves us with a few questions that are at the bottom of the screen. How do we continue to grow? How do we prepare for the future? And how do we steward what God has entrusted us with? This is our building. This is the mission that God has given us. I want everyone to do me a favor. I want you to take a deep breath. I made the people at the business meeting do the same thing because we've had weeks to process this. They've had days now. Today, you are going to be presented with something that is going to feel very overwhelming. So I'm asking you just to take a deep breath. A month ago, roughly, I was praying and I was like, God, whatever we do for this expansion, we're going to need more chairs. And I said, I don't know where those chairs are going to go or what we're going to do with these chairs, but we need more chairs. So I went online to price chairs, and these chairs that you're sitting in were $80 when we bought these chairs 18 years ago or 20 years ago. Those chairs today are $250. So that's pricey. So according to my math, which is a little better than my directions, it was going to cost us somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 just for chairs. And I prayed and I said, God, you're going to have to help us with this. And so I had been looking on Facebook Marketplace and all online in different places. So a couple days after my desperate prayer, I went to Facebook Marketplace again thinking, what are the chances? Filled with faith. And there was a church in Halifax selling 160 chairs. No price, no anything. I messaged them, I was like, we're really interested in these. Depending on the price, we'll take them, but it really didn't depend on the price because they're going to be cheaper than 250. But I'm like, we'll take them. Like, what? And I didn't hear from them for 5 days. And I'm like, they sold, they're gone. Long story short, they ended up getting back to me, back and forth. They wouldn't tell me the price. It was like back. Finally, they're like, we'll sell them to you for $1,500. I got my calculator. I'm like, that's $9 a chair. So we arranged some people. They went and got the chairs. We stuck them in a storage room, still not fully knowing where we were going to put them. And when they put them in the room, my parents went and counted them. And there was a certain number of chairs, so I put them in the calculator. I added it to 306, and it added up to 484 chairs. Remember that number. What we're proposing today is we're calling it the big flip. Next one. There you go. So what we're proposing, I hope you took your deep breath. We're proposing that we take the Mighty Kids and Youthquake areas that are in the gym, we take them out of there, we flip the sanctuary from here to that new huge space, and we flip Youthquake and Mighty Kids here. So I'll tell you the rest of the story in a minute. Why move the next generation into our sanctuary? They will give them a dedicated space for youth. For kids and youth, they won't be spread out all over the building. The sanctuary provides a large, secure environment, room for multiple ministry zones in one space. It'll allow flexibility for future growth. Youth will be able to be in this room and in that space on a Thursday, and Mighty Kids will have all the space that they could need. Why convert the gym? This will create room for growth for us. The new proposed sanctuary would take us directly from this amount of seating to 350. Over time, it could move us to seat 510 people. It would allow for better ministry flow, better viewing on a Sunday, and for special events. Now, as projects do, they start off with just moving from here to there and there to here, which is big enough on its own. And then it started to just, a dream was birthed in our hearts. So I'll start off with the spot. There's going to be some changes that'll happen in the spot. If you spend some time there, you'll know how valuable the spot is to the life of Grace Church. We can seat 80 people on the main floor. So this first picture, you'll notice that the spiral staircase will be gone from there. It has already found a new home. Well, it's there, but it will find a new home. That's how that will work. Next, you're wondering probably, well, how will we get up there? I'm glad you asked. There will be a mezzanine or a walkway that will be built. This will help us in many ways because you'll be able to go up a normal set of stairs instead of the spiral staircase and walk directly across. This will add 30 or 40 accessible seats for us. Next, right above Pastor Natasha's office, there's a whole room up there that is going to be repurposed to a second level of the cafe. That level and above the bathrooms, they will be able to get back and forth to each other. This picture doesn't do it justice. You can go back one picture. This picture doesn't do it justice. That will actually seat somewhere between 30 and 40 people once that is all done. The next picture is Pastor Natasha's office, and she fired me from announcements, so we're taking her office. This will allow for a bunch more seating there. Next. Nursery and preschool. And Mighty Kids, but I can't stress this enough. This is an area in our church that we need to pay really a lot of attention to. First picture. This is my office, not now, currently. This is my office, which is right here, and it will turn into a nursery for 0 to 2. The reason we want the nursery to be there is we want it on the secure side of the building where all the children and all the kids will be. So that's where the nursery will be. The next question, next slide. This is a room upstairs. These pictures are just to show you the feel that we're going for. This is for 2 to 4-year-olds. This room will be, it'll actually go around into 2 rooms, so it'll be like a little village. It'll be built like a town for kids. There'll be play stations and play areas. This will be for 2 to 4-year-olds. Next. This room will be a room for 2 to 4-year-olds. It'll be a dual purpose room. This room will be the room where they go just for their Bible story. There'll be no toys in this room. They'll be separated from the nursery because the nursery kids are down here, and they will have their stories in a room that is prepared just for that. Because we believe that children don't get some junior version of God. I believe that he wants to work in their lives even at that age. We'll go back again. The second thing about that room is there's going to be elements in that room that's going to be turned into a sensory room for children that just need some special attention, some quiet, and maybe if they're on the spectrum or other needs, they will be able to go to this space when things become overwhelming. Next. Mighty Kids. This is over here. Mighty Kids will go from their lounge all the way over here. This room will be able to expand out, as you can see a little bit on the nights there's Mighty Kids, and things will be able to be put back when there's no Mighty Kids. There will be an office in the corner that will be Vero's office, our children's ministry director, and that space will have all sorts of elements. We have another picture here as a sample. Most of you will know that we built a rock wall in the gym just a few months ago. That's how new this all is. Well, the rock wall is going to move here. It's going to be in the back corner, but we're going to build a smaller rock wall for the kids, for the children. Someone said we should dream. Well, here's a dream. We believe in kids. We believe that kids and youth are not the generation of tomorrow. They're the generation of today. Now, before you freak out, I want you to know that's a dream. Youthquake. Youthquake will move here. This area will be dual purpose. There'll be a smaller stage here. There'll be chairs just like in that picture. There'll be games in the middle that are removable. Youthquake's lounge will be over here. Mighty Kids will be over here. You can go to the next one. So something like this on this side. There will be an office in the corner for Pastor Natasha. We have decided to keep her. This area will become a multi-purpose room. Most games will be able to be played in this room that they play in the gym. The running games, the playing games, there'll be basketball, there'll be like all those things. There's one thing that won't be able to play in this room, and that is volleyball, because the ceilings won't be high enough in phase 1. Phase 2 would be, we would raise the ceilings because there's 4 feet left up there, and that would almost get us to the height we needed. But in phase 1, outside, we would put a beach volleyball court so Youthquake would not lose their volleyball, because it became very apparent it was very important. So don't go, you can go to the Grace Church slide, but don't go to the next slide. So I bet you're wondering what a gym would look like converted to a church. So I want to be clear, these pictures that I'm showing you today are just concepts. They're the feels that we're going for. I am of great confidence that all of these rooms will actually turn out better because they will be built for us, by us. So Grace Church, here is what the initial layout in the gym will look like. This gives us 350 chairs. Here is what the max seating would look like in there. Similar, just we've rounded out the rows. Back to my story. I got somebody to draw up these initial drawings, not these ones, but these initial drawings. And I just asked them to do me a favor. I said, just figure out what the maximum amount of seating in the room is so that we have something to know how much growth we can do. Well, so they sent me back that drawing, and in that drawing, they had written a number. And that number was 484. The same number as the amount of chairs that we purchased. Now, I will confess, I did send them one wrong measurement because I measured it. And so the room is a tad bit wider than we first anticipated, and so we can fit a few more chairs. This next picture isn't so much to tell you, because it's not, the room would actually be wider than that. It isn't so much to give us the look, but to help us to understand that all the chairs predominantly would be pointing directly at the stage, just to give you some information. This next picture is the actual feel that we'd be looking to build out this room. It'll be proportioned a little different. It'll feel maybe a little bit more traditional. The stage will be a little higher, so viewing will be a little better. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're sitting in the very back row today, that's how far you will be away still. You're not going to be 15 rows away. On the sides, you might be a couple of rows longer. This next picture is just to give you an idea how the chairs will point. What will this accomplish? Immediately, it moves us to 350 seating. Over time, we could move to 484 to 510, somewhere in there. It will give us a better ministry flow, viewing, and for special events. It gives us more access to more meeting spaces during the week. So for example, because Mighty Kids was a small room, it was difficult to use. Because Youthquake was upstairs, we couldn't use it for small groups or things because it was out of reach. But moving everything down gives us access throughout the entire week. We can do moms and tots groups or parents groups where it's easy just to come in and come right here to this space. We want to be involved in our community more and more. There is one downside. The only downside, we do lose a full gym. The phase one of this room would be the sound booth leaves, the half walls leave, the stage shrinks, probably the drum surround goes away, and we make this room as big as possible so they can do as much as they could in those spaces before. Like I said, we'd put a beach volleyball court outside. In phase two, if needed, we would take these ceiling tiles away. We would go up the additional 40 or so inches, and then that would allow a little better use for volleyball. But that would only be in the future if the beach volleyball court outside. So I bet you're wondering, how much is this going to cost? I think the reason why we've settled with this, we've explored many options, out the front, going up, every feasible option and for us, this is the best stewardship option. It says this in 1 Chronicles 29:14. But who I am and who are my people, that we could give anything to you. Everything we has has come from you, and we give you only what you first gave us. Everything we have comes from God. And we desire to steward that as good as we possibly can. We want to care for the resources that He has given us. So here it is. We have put aside $75,000 over the last while. At the year end last year, we've put aside, we didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew something would happen, so we've put aside this money. Over the years, we've put aside $50,000 in an emergency fund in case a roof or this or heating system. We have been such good stewards of the finances that God has blessed us with that a few years ago, the heating units on this roof went out. We didn't take up an offering. It cost $30,000. And we were able to do it and not touch the emergency fund. God has been incredibly faithful. You have been incredibly faithful. In this year's budget, we have budgeted $12,000 that we've set aside so that we would have a total of $137,000 on hand today. We would need to raise, now someone at the business meeting came to me after and thought, I think that we're gonna have to raise $2.8 million or something. So we would need to raise $150,000 together. With the money that we've already put aside, that would leave us a budget with $287,000 with a buffer up to $300,000. Of that money, $30,000 right off the top would be invested in Mighty Kids and Youthquake in these spaces and upstairs. We would have $257,000 to do the rest of the work. Over the next 2 years, we would pay ourselves back the emergency fund which we borrowed from ourselves. We're not going to charge ourselves interest though. So I will say this, and I've been pastoring here as lead pastor for 13 or 14 years, whatever it's been. And I've never stood up here and asked for money for us. It's always for ministry outside of these walls. And so today is the day. And I'm not asking money for me. This has nothing to do with me. This is about just one more. What was that?
When we picked up the chairs,
Yeah.
that church is doing renovations
Yeah.
too. And Silas, what was for the siding? They had cost $1 million just for the siding.
Yeah. So the church we picked up the chairs from, you ruined my second half of my story. Seriously. They built a sanctuary about this size with a basement, and it cost them $4 million. Just keep that in mind. I would be lying to you if I didn't say this would be infinitely easier if we raised $200,000. This is going to take an incredible amount of work and being very cautious to do this for under $300,000. But we are committed to having no debt. We have no debt now, and we plan on having no debt when this is done. You say, well, how would this work? We need to raise $150,000. If one person gave 20, 6 people gave 10, 8 people gave 5, 10 people gave 1,000, and everyone else chipped in and made 20, we'd raise 150. This is a sample. Another sample, no one gives 20, no one gives 10, 8 people give 5, 100 people give 1,000, and everyone else raises 20. That actually gives us 160. See, here's the point. We can only do this together. We can only make room for one more together. Your church, your board, your council, your pastors have been incredibly prudent with the resources we've had because we saw this day coming. So here's what I would ask. I would ask every single person in this room and every single person online to give. Everybody can do something. What I would ask for you to do is to pray and say, God, what would you have me to do? And whatever you feel comfortable with, if you're like, I could do $500, I'm asking you to consider doing 1,000. I'm asking you just everybody, whatever, if you can give 20, maybe you can give 25. If you can give 10, maybe you can give 15. If you can give $10, why not make it 50? All I'm asking is for whatever part of your journey you're on in this moment to be part of this. That's all I'm asking. So today at the end of the service, there'll be one person at each exit, unless you run for the hills and get out an emergency exit. And they will give you a pledge sheet. It's not complicated, but here's what we're asking. We're asking that $75,000 would be pledged before August 2nd. If you can pledge your money now, not now, but before August 2nd, would you fill out your sheet over the next few weeks before August 2nd and pass it in? And on August 2nd, would you make that donation? If once we get $75,000, we'll add it to our $137,000, and we will begin for real. If you've been to the gym, we have begun. But we can't start with trades and this until we have that money. Maybe you're here and you say, Troy, well, at the end of every year, I give a donation, a larger donation at the end of the year. And I'm really not prepared to do that now. If you can't do that now, would you still fill out a pledge form and say by December 27th, I'll pledge this? Or maybe you can't give a large lump sum or a lump sum at all. There's 5 months. Would you consider on the pledge form filling out how much you will give per month? Maybe you can give some now, some December 27th. Whatever you can do, what we're asking is that you would fill it on that form and you would pass in that form. Please don't leave us guessing if the forms are going to come in. Please have all forms in by August the 2nd or before. Some of you might be asking, Troy, what's the best way to give? The very best way to give is through e-transfer. Give at bucktushchurch.com. The second best way is in person with a check, debit, cash. At the back, there's envelopes. All of that is there. The very worst way to give is through our website. If you go and give on our website and give $10,000, 3% of that is going to be gone in fees. So, now don't get me wrong. We'll still take it. But I just wanted to give you that. If you usually do a year-end donation and you say, you know what, I could push my year-end donation up to August 2nd, that would be incredibly helpful. If you can't, please write it on the sheet anyway. I would want you to know that a lot of prayer as the team comes. A lot of prayer has gone into this. A lot of work, a lot of time by a lot of people. And I want to personally thank the board, the Pastors' Council of Grace Church. They have held this with great care. They have spent lots of time thinking, talking, dreaming. And they have heard the Lord's voice in this. So the question I have for you and me today, that we would walk forward together. I can't say it enough. This isn't about just having a better kids space. This is about the mission. It's about discipleship. It's about future generations. Every one of us in this room at one point will be gone from this earth. And this is about our kids and our grandkids. Like someday I won't be here. But what I want is for my son to walk through the doors with his family. Ephesians 3:20 says this: Now all glory to God, who is able through his mighty power at work within us to accomplish infinitely more than we could ever ask or think. Maybe you're wondering what the timeline of all of this is. Well, June 2026, we had the full staff approval. Pastor Natasha, she was the weak link. She's got a lot of history over on that other side of the building. And she's actually sick today. She's not home in protest. She's on board. Then it went through pastor's council approval. Then we announced it on the 5th and the 12th that there would be a members meeting. On the 15th, there was a congregational meeting, 40 yeses, 1 spoiled ballot. And then I'm here today. And the first pledge Sunday will be August 2nd, but feel free to pledge before. Once that money comes in, the project will begin. The estimated completion will be November. And the second half pledge will be December 27th. I said this last week, and now that it's been approved and gone through, you should know this, that it's quite possible once we will be doing some preparation work, so you could show up next week and all of those storage rooms will be gone. Just ignore the mess. We're preparing for what God is doing. You could show up and that storage room's gonna be gone. Don't worry, the offices will appear there in some time in the future. You're gonna show up in the coming weeks and there's gonna be a rock wall in the back corner. Just walk around it. We're just making way, we're making space. So I think today, I want you to keep in your mind and your heart that this is all about making room for just one more. Friends, I don't want to sound dramatic, but remember this. This is about eternity. And I feel like the only logical response to this moment is for us to stand together and we are going to sing about his goodness. So I would like you to take this moment, begin to already pray. Lord, thank you for everything you've done. But what can I do to be involved in your mission today? So why don't we worship him for his faithfulness?